Indiana News Desk is made possible in part by Smithville, Fiber Internet, Security Solutions, and Voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Maller Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. lawmg.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana News Desk. Ohio legalized medical and recreational marijuana, meaning all 4 states bordering Indiana have some form of marijuana legalization.
I think Ohioans had seen over the last 10 years that regulated markets work. They've been to Michigan, they've been to Illinois.
Ahead, will Indiana ever legalize the drug as Hoosiers cross state lines to purchase it? The state's near-total abortion ban has thrown a wrench into Indiana University's OB-GYN training program.
I think it's vitally important for our residents to have exposure to those procedures.
One solution has been sending residents to Illinois, where abortion is legal, for training. And we visit with a family using the upcoming youth hunting weekend to hone their skills. We'll have these stories, plus the latest news from across the state, right now on Indiana News Desk. Welcome to Indiana News Desk. I'm Joe Wren. Bloomington Mayor-elect Carrie Thompson is asking Mayor John Hamilton to not make certain strategic decisions for the rest of his term. Thompson sent a letter with that request to Hamilton and City Council members Wednesday. Thompson will take office January 1st. The council member Susan Sandberg says she supports the letter and thinks Hamilton is trying to fast-track certain projects before he leaves.
I think she is well within her rights as the new mayor-elect coming in to be a part of the transition, and it's clear from that letter that she hasn't been.
Now, Hamilton responded with a letter of his own. He calls Thompson's request inappropriate and impossible. Thompson says her letter was prompted by the Showers West project, which seeks to move Bloomington police from their 3rd Street headquarters to City Hall.
I think it's irresponsible to sell the current 3rd Street headquarters out from under us until we have all of our questions answered and yet a better clarification on the fiscal status of Showers West.
Hamilton declined to comment for this story, and Thompson was unavailable for an interview. The Monroe County Convention Center expansion project is taking another step forward. Bloomington Mayor John Hamilton signed an interlocal agreement this week for how the Capital Improvement Board overseeing the project is run. The board will manage the design and construction of a new convention center, and the City Council will oversee funding.
The key thing is it basically lines the CIB up to build the new convention center in the years ahead, and to do that in strict and strong coordination with City Council, which has the funding.
City Council unanimously approved the interlocal agreement this week. The county commissioners and county council also need to approve the agreement. Ohioans voted this month to legalize recreational marijuana. Challenges lie ahead in the Ohio State House, but if the referendum becomes law, Indiana will be surrounded on 3 sides by recreational marijuana states. Ethan Sandwise digs into Hoosier reactions and why Indiana has been slow to follow its neighbors.
In Bloomington's exclusive smoke and vape, shoppers can find all sorts of marijuana accessories and legal alternatives, but no marijuana. Cannabis remains fully illegal in Indiana. Some Hoosiers, like Charles Slayton, have been going out of state to smoke.
I've gone to Denver, Colorado to purchase it before even Illinois was legal.
Slayton says he's used marijuana to manage chronic pain and PTSD. He watched the Ohio vote closely.
Yeah, I saw them legalize it. I read the report. I'm like, Indiana way behind all the other states.
Like Hoosiers, Ohioans have been pouring money into dispensaries across state lines. Ohio attorney Tom Herron worked with the coalition that pushed for the referendum so they wouldn't have to travel.
I think Ohioans had seen over the last 10 years that regulated markets work. They've been to Michigan, they've been to Illinois.
States have been moving fast to create legal markets. This year alone, Delaware and Minnesota legalized marijuana, and Kentucky started allowing medical use. Indiana did not. But that doesn't mean it's an unpopular idea. Ohio's referendum passed with 57% approval. A study by Ball State University and Indiana Public Broadcasting last year showed 85% of Hoosiers want marijuana to be legal in some form.
The reason Ohio's been able to legalize is because they put it to the voters. In the state of Indiana, voters aren't allowed to bring forward a ballot initiative. And again, I'd ask, what are we afraid of? Why are we so afraid of the people who've entrusted us with these jobs to hear what they have to say definitively on an issue?
Indiana is one of 24 states that don't allow referenda. The last session, numerous lawmakers, mostly Republicans, introduced bills at the State House that would legalize marijuana in some form. None of them made it to a vote. Johnson was one of those lawmakers.
What I'm asking for is a debate on the floor. We can talk about public health, we can talk about economic revenue, we can talk about anything everyone wants to talk about on this debate, but then let's have a vote and see where it lands.
Lawmakers are discussing marijuana, just not on the floor. Members of a study committee convened at the State House November 1st to discuss legalization and make recommendations. Proponents argued legalization would reduce conviction rates and increase tax revenue. Ashton Eller from the Indiana Chamber of Commerce spoke against legalization, citing workplace safety concerns for cannabis users at industrial jobs.
These workplace accidents, these workplace injuries, they cost employers money. And if we don't have the ability to screen for employees pre-employment and post-accident and random if necessary, that is a huge hindrance to employment in Indiana.
After 7 hours, the committee failed to reach a consensus or produce any recommendations. Eller wants lawmakers to slow down, but the market is growing quickly. Some legislators believe legalization is inevitable. Johnson worries that taking too long to act could disadvantage Hoosiers.
Our business owners, our farmers will not have a seat at the table, and it will be outside of state businesses that come in and run this market.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Ethan Sandweiss.
Marijuana remains federally restricted, and Governor Eric Holcomb has said he won't support legalization until that law is changed. Well, we're joined now by Callie Lichter for more headlines from around the state. Hi, Callie.
Hi, Joe. The Indiana Farm Bureau released its annual Thanksgiving Market Basket survey, and Hoosiers can expect lower Thanksgiving dinner prices than last year. According to the survey, Hoosiers are paying an average of $54.64 for a Thanksgiving dinner of 10 people, or $5.46 per person. That's about 10% less at the grocery store than in 2022.
Amidst all of this inflation, that we have a low point for our Thanksgiving meal, something to celebrate and be thankful for. So we've actually gone down over last year's prices.
The Indiana market basket price is 11% lower than the national average cost of the projected Thanksgiving dinner meal. The main contributor to the decrease was lower cost of turkey due to a reduction in avian flu cases throughout the U.S. The Hoosier Ticket Project has been sending fans and families to Indiana University games for free since 2021, and the nonprofit looks to expand their reach in the future. Aubrey Wright has the story.
The nonprofit has sent over 1,000 people to IU football, baseball, and basketball games since 2021. Co-founder and CEO Josh Bruick says the Hoosier Ticket Project was created for people who can't afford to go to games. The project is funded by donations from Hoosier fans.
I think we all want to give back to this place in our own way, shape, or form, and I think we are a resource and an outlet for people to do that.
COO and co-founder Jason Girdham says the group gave away $75,000 worth of tickets last year. He says tickets go to families, longtime fans, people who were nominated by friends, or anyone else who deserves to see the Hoosiers.
That's real money that people in the community didn't have to spend to go to games, and we're now making that possible for them.
Bruick says the nonprofit has grown because of social media and word of mouth. What started out as a tweet from Martha the Mop Lady turned into a team of 8 people with plans to grow even bigger. Last year, for example, the project sent 700 fans to see the IU women's basketball team play. The project also partnered with the women for an autograph session.
The student athletes were so great about what we were trying to do in our mission and treating the kids that came to Ball in the Hall like they were the most important fans in attendance that day.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
Girdham and Bruick say they hope to expand the Hoosier Ticket Project to include sports camp scholarships. The city of Bloomington will give out 45 vouchers to residents to purchase electronic bikes locally. The total cost of the program is $30,000 and will be paid for through the city's general fund. 30 vouchers will be worth $500, 15 more will be worth $1,000 each, and are available only to low-income residents.
Overall, I'd say the city is continuing to work towards expanding biking infrastructure, doing things like the studies, like the Walnut Corridor study, to see how we can expand biking infrastructure to make safety a real priority.
The vouchers can be used at Revolution Bike and Bean on 10th Street and Bicycle Garage on Kirkwood Avenue. Indiana's college-going rate and enrollment have been declining for over a decade, but as Emma Hurway reports, this year the data is proving more promising.
53% of the high school graduating class of 2021 enrolled in college right after graduation, according to the Indiana Commission for Higher Education. That rate is now steady after declining for more than a decade. 2023 was the first time in 13 years that college enrollment in Indiana has increased, and it did so by nearly 5,000 students. Indiana's four-year institutions were ranked 6th best in the nation at holding the line on tuition and mandatory fees.
When I tell people, look, we're 6th best, they go, really? I go, yeah, we are. And then when you start looking and comparing us to other states, we're very competitive from a tuition and fee perspective.
But Lowry says there is much more room to improve. He hopes to see more increases in college enrollment, completion, and graduate retention by 2030.
As I like to say oftentimes, I'm pleased but not satisfied. We should be a top 10. In fact, I'd love for us to be the top state in terms of completion rates.
He says the improvements are a result of policy changes such as the new 21st Century Scholars automatic enrollment and outcome-based performance funding initiatives for schools. For Indiana News Desk, I'm Emma Hurway.
Two environmental groups say if an Indiana aluminum smelter doesn't clean up its act, they'll sue. The Sierra Club and the Environmental Integrity Project announced their intent to sue Alcoa Warwick in 60 days if it doesn't stop putting more pollution in the Ohio River than its permit allows. They say the Warwick plant has had more than 100 water violations in the past 5 years, including releasing more mercury than allowed at least 30 times.
So we'd like to see those goals implemented at the Warwick facility. There's no reason they shouldn't be making the same effort for the people of Indiana that they're doing for the people of other countries where they have smelters.
Mercury is a toxic heavy metal that can build up in fish in the river, poisoning the birds and people that eat them. A committee of state lawmakers unanimously agreed on 7 recommendations to address Indiana's high health care costs. The final report by the Health Care Cost Oversight Task Force covers a wide range of policy topics, but as Abigail Ruman reports, the recommendations focused on increased transparency.
The recommendations include standardizing prior authorization, increasing transparency for healthcare mergers, and addressing practices that drive higher costs. Senator Chris Garden is the chair of the committee. He says the recommendations for the upcoming legislative session are a collaborative effort among lawmakers and the healthcare industry.
No matter which group suggested a given idea or what ultimately made it into the final report recommendations, everything we are talking about is focused squarely on driving down costs for Hoosiers.
The final report followed testimony by dozens of people, including providers, policy experts, employers, and representatives from different parts of the healthcare industry. For Indiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Abigail Ruman.
13 Indiana counties, mostly in the southern half of the state and including Monroe County, are under active burn bans. Such a ban restricts outdoor burning such as leaves or any outdoor fires. The burn bans in place are a result of recent dry weather conditions that would allow for a fire to spread quickly if it were to get out of hand.
Unfortunately, with the weather looking very dry for the next week or so, we could see additional counties go under a burn ban here in the next week, especially with the conditions being, very dangerous here the next 2 days with the dry air and wind.
Burn bans are managed at the state level, and Joe, the State Department of Homeland Security works with individual county emergency managers to decide when it is unsafe to burn.
Hope this rain helps a little bit too.
Oh,
now.
yeah, me too.
Thanks, Callie. Coming up next on Indiana News Desk. Indiana's youth hunting weekends allow young hunters to learn and practice their skills before adults are allowed out. And we look at the impact the state's near-total abortion ban is having on Indiana University's OB-GYN training program. These stories and more right here on Indiana News Desk.
I'm Billie Jean King. Women's sports changed the whole world.
With your voice, you leading the way. The greatest mystery that Agatha Christie ever created was herself.
What do you suppose it's like falling down a rabbit hole?
We have much to be grateful for.
Sometimes in life you have those moments in all its glory.
With singing, dancing, magicians.
Yeah!
Just what I wanted for Christmas.
We have much to be grateful for.
The platypus have been granted this window into their world.
Can you tell me the truth?
What do you remember?
Welcome back to Indiana News Desk. The Indiana Department of Natural Resources holds 2 youth hunting weekends a year. The first one was in September and the second will be on November 25th and 26th. Isabella Vesperini talked to an Indiana family about their hunting experiences.
Zachary Walker is conservation officer for the DNR. Walker's dad taught him how to hunt when he was a kid.
It was a family tradition that was passed on from his dad, and he felt it was important to pass it along to me.
Walker said he has hunted ever since and has taught his 2 daughters how to hunt when they were 5. Both girls, Liliana and Gracie, got their apprentice licenses and took their hunter education last year before getting their official hunting licenses.
It's one of those family traditions that's passed on, but it also is one of the opportunities to spend time together outside, learning about nature. It's more than just the hunt.
Walker is still teaching his daughters the logistics and safety of hunting and is learning more himself along the way. He sometimes brings donuts, chocolate milk, and coloring books to keep Gracie and Liliana entertained while they wait for the animals.
And it's a game of chess, but more encompassing is the experience. The most important part to me, or exciting part, is watching it through my kids' eyes and watching them develop and master those skills. And that to me is probably the most challenging and the most rewarding.
Walker says that Indiana Youth Hunting Weekends give his kids the opportunity to get practice hunting when the animals are not on as high alert.
When I was a kid, we didn't have that opportunity. We didn't have youth weekends. So it gives the kids kind of a head start on the hunting season before the adults get released.
One of his daughters, Gracie, is 8 years old. She and her sister shot a turkey her first time hunting. She finds squirrels the hardest to hunt and doves the easiest to hunt.
So we usually get up in the morning like really early, then we get our hunting clothes on and we go to the spot we want and we have a tent probably there and like we have our stand and we have some chairs.
Gracie likes hunting because she can spend time outside with her family and learn to provide food for herself. Her family usually hunts for a few hours at a time.
We usually bring like peanut butter crackers, sometimes donuts.
Gracie's sister, Liliana, is 10 years old. Liliana says she was scared to learn to hunt a deer for the first time.
We were out there waiting for hours and we were listening to this owl in front of us.
Liliana thinks about the excitement of hunting a lot. It has taught her patience and responsibility. She plans to continue hunting in the future.
I've enjoyed it for a long time and I want to keep enjoying it.
For Indiana News Desk, I'm Isabella Vesperini.
Adults aged 18 and older with a hunting license are allowed to accompany anyone aged 17 years and younger to hunt on public land and any private property they have access to. Those 17 and younger do not need to have a license to hunt during the youth hunting weekend. Indiana's near total abortion ban has complicated Indiana University's OB-GYN program. Residents can't get required training in the state anymore, and that's left it to school leaders to figure out the logistics of out-of-state training. Aubrey Wright reports on how IU is working within the confines of the new law to educate future doctors.
Dr. Nicole Scott is facing new challenges as the leader of Indiana University's OB-GYN residency program. It's one of the largest OB-GYN programs in the Midwest. Based in Indianapolis, Scott leads training in areas like pregnancy management, childbirth, and reproductive health. That got more complicated after Indiana passed a near-total abortion ban in August. There are exceptions to protect a mother's life, or in cases of rape or incest, before 20 weeks. But where and when someone can get an abortion is strictly limited. That's a problem for IU medical residents. To remain accredited, OB-GYNs must have training in abortion care and pregnancy loss.
I think it's vitally important for our residents to have exposure to those procedures.
Scott says residents need this training so they're prepared when something goes wrong. Indiana has the third highest maternal mortality rate in the country, and it's getting worse. On top of that, miscarriages are very common. More than a quarter of pregnancies end in miscarriage.
An abortion procedure is just as safe as a miscarriage procedure and is the exact same procedure. And so if OB-GYN residents have adequate training in abortion procedures, they're going to be even more skilled with miscarriage management.
Scott and residency leaders found a solution. Send residents and faculty to Illinois for a 5-week family planning rotation. It's not easy to travel back and forth, and it's expensive, about $20,000.
They will typically go 2 days out of the week to perform procedures, and we will kind of fully fund their travel, lodging, and food.
Getting a license to practice in Illinois is also a hurdle.
But we had submitted applications as far in advance as 6 months before the rotation, and they still didn't have their license.
Dr. Kamal Kumar is a third-year resident. She completed the rotation last year in Indiana and will take it again as an elective. Kumar says the rotation was easier before the new laws. She didn't have to travel as far, and she felt safe doing her job. She was inspired to continue in family planning after her residency.
I think the main things that influence me are great staff that we have who are trained in family planning.
Kumar got the training she needed and an experience she loved. Experts worry that learners in restricted states won't have the same opportunities. North Carolina OB-GYN Dr. Jenna Beckham analyzed the impacts of abortion restrictions on medical education. She says best practices often conflict with what's legal.
It's a tremendous ethical conundrum, burden for physicians to carry, and particularly for junior physicians who are really early in their careers.
Beckham and her team expect training will lag in states with more restrictions. She says doctors likely won't want to live and practice in states with more restrictions. And care for pregnant women will likely only get worse.
What's that going to look like, 5-10 years into the future, where we have less and less physicians and providers who are able to provide full spectrum reproductive health care?
Kumar says she'll attend a fellowship in family planning after IU, another 2 years of studying. There's no options for that in Indiana, so she's figuring out where to head to next, keeping state laws in mind. For Indiana News Desk, I'm Aubrey Wright.
More than 5,700 percussionists descended on Indianapolis last week for one of the largest such gatherings in the world. As Benta Boutier reports, the Percussive Arts Society International Convention has been held in Indianapolis since 2016.
The musicians convened at the Indianapolis Convention Center for the Society's 48th annual meeting. It's the largest member association of percussionists in the world.
These 4 days are the most important 4 days of for our community in terms of research, performance, education, but also We're also a large family.
The schedule was filled with different genres of performers, speakers, and percussion competitions for student groups. Joshi and Nash Poli are in the ensemble group that won their high school division. Joshi says the group was excited to qualify to come and then win.
It's a very cool experience.
They're excited to see famous percussionists in person.
And now it's just like fun. I said it's like the NBA All-Star game. Like everybody that's like anybody in percussion is here.
One of those musicians, Valerie Naranjo, brought her students from NYU. The percussionist for Saturday Night Live, she says this is probably her 20th society event.
The networking, not only personal networking or social networking, but just the education and passing of information and, of course, the enjoyment of great music. That's very special.
It's not an accident the event happens in Indianapolis, according to Simons. It's a concerted effort on the city's part to bring events and tourism through conventions. Before 2016, the society rotated cities. For Indiana News Desk, I'm Benta Boutier.
The travel team lists Indianapolis as one of the top 10 cities in the U.S. for conventions, along with Atlanta and Miami. That's the end of this program. A reminder, we won't have a show next week. You can follow our work online at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend and a happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you again December 1st.
Indiana News Desk is made possible in part by Smithville, fiber internet, security solutions, and voice in Southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. Mallard Grodner Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis. LawMG.com. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. Rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.